Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, where in this episode I'm going to walk you through another arrangement. Let's go. I know you're out there, I know you're listening, and you have a ton of beats that are incomplete. But that's what this series is for. Hold me accountable, hold you accountable. Let's either finish the beats or get rid of them. Now this beat I made back in June of last year. Obviously, it's not completed, and that doesn't do us any good. Let's take a listen to it, see if it's something that we can salvage. If so, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna finish up the beat so we can get it ready for production. Yeah, you know, sometimes you make bangers, sometimes you don't. This one I actually really do like. So we need to get it ready and get this thing packaged up to go. So first thing I'm gonna do, let's go back over to our intro. Best way to kind of label this, we're gonna give this kind of a color palette. We're gonna name this intro. We're gonna name this one is our hook. This one is gonna be our verse. And you can throw some color on there if you want. Make it a little easier to read. Just listen. Now sometimes, and you don't always have to do this, but sometimes a nice little build up can change the whole sound of it. So that's what we're gonna try to do here. We're gonna go SFX. Let's bring this to one of these tracks. So let's go ahead, highlight your two tracks, click on it, press tab, let's drop that in there. Let's go ahead, I like to go verse right after hook. Oh, and that'll tell you a lot about where you're at here. So I want this end on 9. I want you to end on 9. Okay. Press this little button right here. So let's start from the top. It needs some reverb. Grab our hook, hold it, tab, and then just to make sure I have this laid out right, see, what was our tempo, 152? So since it's 152, let's bring you over, see what this looks like, 2 minutes 40. Yeah, that's a little more my space right there. 340. So let's take a listen now. So all I did basically was get a feel for the length of the verse, the length of the hook, verse, hook, and then an outro. About 3:30, that's not bad, but we're gonna listen to the pacing right now. All right, simple. So basically what I did was I gave myself kind of a standard verse, mixed it up a little bit, pulled some of the instruments out on the second one, gave myself a drop. A nice part about giving yourself a drop before the hook starts, it not only gives the artist a moment to kind of breathe before going into the hook, so they kind of know where the hook's gonna start, but it's the same thing for the listener. Now, none of this is set in stone. These are just nice little cuts and adds and fillers for both the audience and your artist when they're writing to a track. So it doesn't sound too repetitive from verse to hook to verse to hook. So you kind of have a better idea where you're at in the song. So we're gonna start from the top. simple edit. Whenever you're making your tracks, I highly suggest going small intro into your verses, unless you're doing R&B. R&B, you're gonna have a lot more playroom to let the artist kind of build into the song, which can be really fun. And if you're sitting in with an artist while they're writing, you're definitely gonna have a lot more creative freedom in building bridges into songs and things like that. But sometimes with hip hop, you wanna keep it fairly simple, easy. You start adding too much percussion, too much to the song. A lot can kind of get lost in the mix from the artist's vocals themselves. So I think at this point, we're gonna probably dive into some mixing. So let's tab over. What I like to start with my mixes is I usually go straight to the kick. So let's go ahead and solo the kick. And we're gonna hit this button, which is gonna get us out of our arrangement view and back into our edit view, so to speak. So I wanna have my kicks, let's go ahead and pull this up a little bit, but I wanna have my kicks right around 12 dB right here. So from my kick, and then I'm gonna go over to my 808s. I like to keep them a little close to 18. And then from there, let's go ahead and pull in our lead. I like to keep my lead around 24. Let's go over to our next sound. Yeah, pull that down. Let's go to our staccatos, or our brass staccatos. Let's go over to our bells. Our vox. Claps. Because claps can be really piercing to the ears, especially like when you're in the car, like your mix and your setup sound a little bit different, especially when you get into the car. I like to pull the claps down just a little more, because if you're a little bit low on the claps and you're listening to music, not gonna have an issue. If you're a little too loud on the claps, it's gonna crunch your earlobes pretty bad. Let's go to hats. And then let's go ahead and push our claps next to each other. Now, it might sound counterintuitive when it's called a mix down. So you're pulling your levels down. You don't want them peaking too much onto your master limiter. But this is where we're gonna throw in ozone, and we're gonna bring everything up. When you're recording your track with your vocals on it, you're gonna pull off your master limiter, record, mix down, then throw your master limiter on there. But since we're just gonna be exporting the beat for people to listen to, we're gonna go ahead and bring everything back up through Ozone. Ozone 9, don't share. Okay, so I'm gonna tab back over. I'm gonna click this button, open back up our arrangement view. Now, ideally what it wants you to do, it wants you to play in the loudest part of your track, and that's gonna be right in here during the hook when everything's piled together. So we'll click Master Assistant. We're gonna go streaming. I leave the intensity at medium. Next. Listen to this. Start from the top. What I did notice, I think I'm gonna solo out just the staccatos. I'm gonna add just a little more reverb on there. Just listen to it regular, on. I just want it to carry just a little bit longer. And it's all in preference. When you start making your tracks, what kind of effects and things like that you want to add onto it. But I just wanted it to be a little bit more distant, a little bit more airy. Let's go back in. I want to address the hook or the ending. I don't like a bleed off, so I'm gonna carry my loop just a little bit longer so when I process everything out, it'll have that bleed over. And of course, if you have your track tags, I'm gonna add that. Oh yeah, the warp. We gotta turn the warp off. Let's go ahead and save it. The second part of these videos, which I think are good, is go into your folder. Like I organize my beats, and this is, long version, 2022. This is the year. Then I go months, and then I get into my months, and then I go just the beats and the BPM. So we're gonna go new folder. This one is called Magician. BPM 152, BPM, and then You see for my other tracks, I'll have a stem folder, I'll have a waves folder, and a thumbnail folder. And the thumbnail folder is what you use when you're promoting your track, whether it be your YouTube thumbnail or whether it be your BeatStars thumbnail, wherever you're promoting your music from. Okay, so we're gonna go into our stems. Well, I do two ways to do this, and I'll kind of show you. So whenever I'm done making a track, I have a little bit of a process, method to the madness here, okay? So I'll go to packs, or user library, and it's gonna be Harry's MIDI loops. Now, I organize my MIDI loops based off of the BPM. So this one's gonna sit in the 155 BPM. I'm gonna make a new folder. This one is gonna be called The Magician. And I don't take any of the melodies, I take my percussion. And I'll drag a percussion over. Even the 808s. Now, why do I do this? Sometimes when you're working on a beat, you're trying to maybe get beat block, or you're trying to find something to kind of spice the beat up. You can go back into all these pre-saves and you can just drag out the kit from that you were previously working on. And this is everything that you see on this clap, it comes from this. If I want to take claps or snares from a different track I was working on, I can drag it over, see if it fits. Sometimes when you're building a song, you might just need quick inspiration, and these are all like tracks, grooves, rhythms that you've made, but it's just a faster way to kind of put your own spin on it. And I have another video on my channel that kind of explains the method to the madness, but that's a short way of doing it. And it's just an easy way to kind of keep those kits organized and kind of expand Ableton's usability and reusability as well. Step 2, tab back over. I have 2 screens, but I'm trying to keep everything here for you. Tab back over. We're gonna go File, Export. In this track, we're gonna do Individual, and then we're gonna go down here, File Type Wave, encode to MP3 on, and then we're gonna make sure we have our loop selected, export, and then we'll go back over to our beats, whole new folder, stems, we're gonna hit save. Now this is gonna track everything out. So I do a stem file, or I do a stem folder, I do a wave and MP3 folder, and then I have a standard project, and then I freeze the project and keep a frozen project as well. Why is this important? If you're constantly backing yourself up, if you lose a plugin, or maybe you're using a plugin that you were subscribing to, that you're no longer subscribing to, and you go back to your track, well, you have nothing organized. And you're gonna see as we kind of do this series, we're gonna jump into a beat where maybe there's nothing. Maybe it was just a concept idea and there's nothing I can do with it. Well, things like that you can hold on to, but at least in this method, you know, like if I take this out to somebody else's studio, I have the stems, if you want to stem it out. If you're switching into Pro Tools or a different DAW, you have your stems. You're just a lot more prepared in the long run for a mix down or however you want to do it. I used to take my stems and then I'd take them over into Pro Tools. I'd do the recording session, the vocal recording session into Pro Tools, but have all my stems tracked out, and then that way I could do the last mix down in Pro Tools. But you can do everything in Ableton if you really like Ableton for that. It's not a bad place for recording vocals into, but my recommendation is to create a folder, keep yourself organized, create the date that you created it, your stems, your MP3, your wave, your session, and then that way if something happens, you still have the song backed up and you're not gonna lose anything. Go ahead, delete your MP3s. That was my fault. You just wanna keep your waves. Okay, I'm gonna delete that one. We're gonna get rid of our delay and reverb. And then that looks right. All of our waves. Little rusty, it's been a couple of months. Just your waves for your stems. And then for your wave in your MP3, this one, export, master only. Well, let's toggle back on ozone. Highlight, file, export, master only. And we're gonna do MP3 and our wave. Export. This one is gonna go into our next folder, save. Let's go ahead and we'll let that process. Okay, so we got our MP3, we got our wave, we got our stems. Now I know it's not gonna let me do this, but I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna move it, the project in here as well. I'm gonna reopen the project. Now this last tip, you don't necessarily have to do. It's just kind of something that I've done. So if I decide I wanna take the project onto my laptop or onto another device, I can still have my session in Ableton, even though maybe that laptop might not have the plugins or even the drum kits or anything like that, but I can still have my project on a different device. I will highlight everything. Don't fight it. I'm gonna freeze the tracks. Key in doing this is to save, but save as, and make sure you have a different, I'm gonna relabel this flattened, so I know the difference between the two projects. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna let it freeze, which obviously all this takes time. All this is gonna help you in the long run, whether you're building the track, mixing it down, getting your stems ready, getting your MP3 ready, getting your image ready. There's just steps to making this beat or your beats have its own identity, and it keeps you from just having a slew of MP3s and then you're trying to find the sessions, you're trying to find your stems, this is the method that I've used to keep myself organized. If you want to use it, here you go. All right, so we froze the tracks. Now with everything highlighted, we're gonna flatten the tracks. Now what that's done is converted everything from MIDI to wave. So now if we press play, so if you don't want to individually drag your stems, but you want to use less processing power, it's running a lot less. And now you can start adding tracks on top of it. So what I'll do here is I hit File, Save Live Set As, The Magician, Flattened. Save that. So now you'll have your flattened version, which is going to eat up less CPU. If you just want to jump straight into your session, it's ready to go. Or if you want to jump back into your MIDI version, you have your MIDI version. So the last one we used in about 17%, or down to 4% CPU. Now, I know everybody has a different method to how they do this. This isn't a one size fits all, but this just shows you, different options that you have when it comes to finishing it. But again, less CPU when it's flattened, Don't have to worry about your plugins. I can take this session over to my laptop, play it off of there when I'm mobile, and not have to have all the plugins on that device. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, smash that thumbs up button, and turn on that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the latest episodes. And if you like this content, go ahead and check out that video. And I'm also going to play the song. If you like the song, it's going to be right here. We'll see you on the next one. Have a good night.